The Petrine Promise, a Vatican conspiracy thriller. Written by Dr. Rufaro Celestine. Narrated by Percival Kingsley. Prologue. Jerusalem, 33 AD. The Commission. The evening air hung heavy in the upper room. Jesus looked at each of his disciples in turn, his gaze lingering longest on those he had chosen to record his teachings. "I have told you many times," he said quietly. "You must bear witness because you have been with me from the beginning." John, the youngest, leaned forward. "Master, how will we know our writings have been true to your teachings?" "The Father himself will give you the words," Jesus answered. "Just as he gave words to Moses, he will guide your testimonies." His expression grew serious. "But take heed. There will be those who try to change what you write, who will add their own teachings to yours. Beware. Know that not all who shout, 'Lord, Lord,' will be pure of heart. Not all who prophesy on my behalf or cast out devils on my behalf or even do wonderful things on my behalf are truly with me. I have warned you before. You must remain as wise as serpents and as harmless as doves." Matthew, the former tax collector, had already begun taking notes, as was his custom. "Then how will future generations know which writings are true?" "By their fruits they shall know them." Jesus stood, moving to the window that overlooked Jerusalem. In the distance, the lights from oil lamps flickered in the high priest's palace. "There are those, even now, who fear the message of justice and accountability that I have taught you. They will not rest until they have created their own version of my teachings." "Then we must protect the truth," Peter declared. "Yes." Jesus turned back to them. "What you write will be preserved, though many will try to destroy it or bury it beneath other teachings. But in the last days, when the world most needs my message, what you have written will be rediscovered." He touched the scrolls where Matthew had been writing his notes. "Your testimonies and those of your fellow apostles who share in this task will be enough. Let no one add to them or take away from them." In the streets below, torches appeared, moving towards the garden where Jesus would soon pray. The time was drawing near. "Remember," he repeated, "you are not just writing for your time, but for all times. When humanity faces its greatest challenge, they will need to rediscover my pure message, which you will record." The disciples nodded solemnly. They were unaware that even as they sat there, Caiaphas, the high priest of Jerusalem, was already planning how to suppress the truths that Jesus had been teaching. Chapter 1. Saturday evening. Evening light slanted through the stained glass windows of the Church of Our Lady of the Assumption and the English Martyrs in Cambridge. It painted jewelled patterns across worn wooden pews. The scent of beeswax candles and ancient stone hung in the air, a fragrance Father Thomas had known for 30 years of ministry. But tonight, that familiar comfort felt hollow as he gazed out at the empty spaces in his congregation. 23 people. He'd counted them 3 times, though he wished he hadn't. 23, where once there had been hundreds. Their absence was as palpable as the silence between hymns. Each empty pew seemed to mock the hopes he'd once held for this parish. At 68, Father Thomas carried his years in the smile lines around his eyes, rather than in his bearing. Of medium height and slightly stooped from decades bent over manuscripts, he maintained the lean physique of someone who'd spent more time chasing ancient mysteries than indulging in earthly comforts. Wire-rimmed glasses and silver hair gave him a scholarly air, but there was an intensity in his blue eyes that spoke of someone who'd found answers he'd never expected to find. His hands, weathered by decades of turning scripture pages, holding communion chalices and indulging in his passion for archaeological digs, trembled slightly as he gripped the edges of the pulpit, not from age, although now he felt every year as it went by, but from the weight of what he'd discovered in his research. "For our final reading this evening," he said, adjusting his glasses, We turn to the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, verses 31 through 46. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the King say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was an hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered and fed thee, or thirsty and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger and took thee in, or naked and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the King shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was an hungered, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me not in. Naked, and ye clothed me not. Sick, and in prison, and ye visited me not. Then shall they also answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, or athirst, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, ye did it not to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal. The words of judgment echoed through the vast space, Christ's message of accountability and social justice ringing as true now as it had 2,000 years ago. If only they understood what had been lost, he thought. What had been deliberately hidden. While he was reading, Father Thomas had occasionally stopped to glance at his small congregation. Most of them were elderly, fixtures of the parish for decades. But there in the back, a young mother with 2 children listened intently. Hunger for something real was visible in her eyes. They were all searching, he knew, even if they didn't fully understand what they were missing. His voice echoed in the air. The evening light through the stained glass windows continued to fall on the empty spaces, dust motes dancing in the coloured beams. Thank you for coming, he said softly to the congregation. Go in peace, love one another, serve the Lord. As the small congregation filed out, Michael Barnes, one of his lay readers, approached the pulpit. The younger man's face showed the same concern Father Thomas felt. Another drop from last week, Michael said quietly. Remember when we had to add extra chairs for evening mass? Father Thomas nodded, gathering his notes. And it's not just us. Every church I know is facing the same decline. People want the hope that only a promise of justice can deliver, and they're not getting it in our teachings anymore. Yes, Father Thomas, I agree with you. Something is missing, isn't it? Something important. Though perhaps not for much longer, Father Thomas replied, thinking of the research waiting in his office. It was more evidence that everything they had been taught had been deliberately altered. Michael gave him a curious look but didn't press further. As the younger man walked away, Father Thomas remained at the pulpit, lost in thought. This latest evidence he'd discovered could change everything, but it could also destroy what little faith in Christianity remained. Was the world ready for what they'd found? His phone buzzed in his pocket. Another message from his contacts in Egypt. Something new had been discovered in the monastery archives, something that confirmed his worst fears. He needed to make some calls, especially to that brilliant young researcher at the British Museum, Dr. Chen. She had been his former student during her time at Cambridge University, and they had stayed connected over the years. If his suspicions were correct, they would need her expertise in ancient languages. His fingers lingered over Dr. Sarah Chen's number on his phone. Last week's conversation with his former student still echoed in his mind. I was thinking about our last conversation, Father Thomas, she'd said, over coffee in the British Museum's cafe. You remember, we had been discussing Grigory Kessel's discovery of a hidden portion of a chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. I was wondering, could there be another reason for its existence other than the current scientific explanations? I noticed an interesting omission, and I'm not sure if it is significant. Keep looking, Sarah, he'd told her, remembering his own discoveries. Sometimes the most important truths hide in the smallest discrepancies. Now, with what he'd found in his research, her expertise in ancient languages might be more crucial than either of them had ever realized. But first, he needed to confirm his suspicions about certain documents that shouldn't exist. Documents that might explain why Christianity had changed so dramatically from its earliest years. He'd contact her soon. For now, he needed to be certain of what he'd found. The consequences of being wrong, or worse, of being right, were too grave to risk hasty action. In the gathering darkness of Hyde Park, James Bradford's running shoes pounded against the path in rhythm with the bass line pulsing through his headphones. At 40, he carried himself with the easy confidence of someone who'd seen real danger and survived despite it. His dark hair was just beginning to grey at the temples, adding a distinguished touch to his rugged good looks, while his well-groomed beard enhanced rather than softened his sharp features. His 6-foot athletic frame moved with the fluid grace of his Royal Marines training. Freddie Mercury's voice soared as he rounded the Serpentine, his mind shifting between the ancient texts he'd been studying and the growing evidence of something hidden in Christianity's earliest days. Another one bites the dust. The lyrics seemed oddly appropriate, given what the Guardians had discovered about early church history. James allowed himself a grim smile as he maintained his pace. 8 kilometers down, 4 to go. Running helped him think, helped him process the weight of the secrets he carried. Other runners nodded as they passed, never guessing that the man in the faded Queen t-shirt and shorts was one of Britain's foremost religious historians, or that he belonged to an organization that had spent centuries protecting a truth that could change everything. His dark eyes, holding both scholarly intelligence and something harder, the watchfulness of a man who knew too many secrets, scanned the path ahead. His phone buzzed with a message from his Guardian contacts. Unusual activity had been noted in the Vatican's archival division. James slowed to read it, then quickened his pace. Something was happening, something they'd been waiting for. Deep within the Vatican, Cardinal Romano sat at the head of an ancient oak table, its surface reflecting centuries of similar meetings. At 63, he cut an imposing figure, tall and distinguished, with the bearing of someone who could have run a global business corporation instead of serving the church. His meticulously maintained physique belied his age. His silver hair and aristocratic features gave him a statesman's presence, while his deep, resonant voice commanded attention without effort. The 7 other cardinals watched him in silence, their red robes appearing almost black in the chamber's dim light. A single hanging lamp cast a pool of illumination around him, leaving the room's corners in shadow. Every cardinal in the room had accepted a lifetime appointment for this particular task. Cardinal Romano's grey eyes, capable of shifting from warmth to steel in an instant, surveyed the men before him. "Brothers," he said. His voice carried the weight of generations. "As we speak, another artifact is making its way to London, to the British Museum for evaluation." His fingers tensed as they traced the gold lettering on the worn brown leather notebook before him. The leather-bound notebook was in excellent condition, in spite of the fact that it was decades old. "We will have to do everything in our power to address the complications that will, most certainly, arise. It is our duty. Are you in agreement?" The others nodded, their murmured responses echoing off stone walls that had heard countless secrets. "Whatever it takes." "Yes." Cardinal Romano's eyes glinted in the lamplight. "Whatever it takes." He closed the notebook with deliberate care, the sound echoing in the hushed chamber. "Now, duty calls," he said, rising from the table. The shadows seemed to move with him as he reached for his phone. "I must contact Luca immediately." Alone in his office afterward, he paused before an ancient crucifix on the wall. His fingers touched the leather-bound Bible on his desk. It was different from his notebook, older, Much older. Are we doing the right thing? He whispered to himself in the empty room. He shook his head slightly, then straightened his shoulders and continued with his duties. There was no room for doubt. Not now. In a cosy flat in Chelsea, Sarah Chen was curled up in her favourite reading chair. A glass of Merlot was on the side table beside her. At 35, she combined brilliant academic credentials with striking beauty, her Asian heritage giving her high cheekbones and elegant features that needed no enhancement. Long dark hair was pulled back in a practical style that suited both laboratory work and her natural grace. Her living room walls were lined with books, academic works on ancient languages, religious histories and archaeological texts. The room still smelled of the jasmine tea she had been drinking earlier. The scent of jasmine was mingled with the ever-present musty smell of old manuscripts that Sarah collected as a hobby. Sarah picked up her glass to take another sip of wine and studied her notes. Since her last conversation with Father Thomas, she still hadn't solved the mystery. She returned to the article in the journal she was reading. The journal was published by the Cambridge University Press and enjoyed a stellar academic reputation. Sarah checked the notes she had jotted down in her notebook. Number 1. In 2023, Gregory Kessel was doing research in the Digital Vatican Library and discovered a portion of text belonging to the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11:30 to 12:26. It was hidden as an underlayer of text in a 1,750-year-old Greek Bible manuscript. Number 2. The Kessel text is written in the Old Syriac Aramaic language and has been determined to be at least 100 years older than any other known Greek New Testament manuscripts, including the Codex Sinaiticus manuscript. Number 3. The Kessel text is the lowest layer of writing, scriptio ima, on the page, with the text of the 1,750-year-old Greek Bible manuscript written over it. Number 4. The Kessel text is not visible to the naked eye. Sarah took another sip of wine and continued to read her notes. Number 5. The Kessel translation is the fourth instance of independent manuscript evidence of old Syriac Bibles that predate any Greek Bible manuscripts. Sarah stopped reading and glanced at the framed photo on her bookshelf. Herself at 8 years old. She was sitting on her grandfather's lap in Hong Kong as he showed her characters in an ancient text. He'd sparked her love of languages, taught her that every symbol held meaning and every text told a story. What would he think of the puzzle she was trying to unravel now? Something about Kessel's discovery in the ancient manuscripts wouldn't let her rest. Sarah headed to her bedroom, although she wasn't sleepy. Okay. Tomorrow. Time for laundry, Sarah reminded herself. On Monday, she'd be back at her job in the Religious Documents Lab at the British Museum. None of them slept well that night. Father Thomas sat in his study until dawn, surrounded by his research. James, having run until his legs ached, had only managed to get a few hours' sleep. Even Cardinal Romano, normally an excellent sleeper, tossed and turned all night. Sarah eventually fell asleep and dreamt of ancient documents with their secrets waiting to be uncovered. That night, little did any of them realize how big the storm was that was waiting for them, a storm they were each about to enter. Sunday morning dawned grey and cool, typical English weather for March that matched the sombre mood in Father Thomas's office as he made one final call. In Hyde Park, James checked his encrypted messages while stretching out his running weary muscles. More running was needed. And in her flat, Sarah gathered her notes together for work on Monday, unaware that her quiet academic life was about to change forever. None of them knew it yet, but their paths were about to converge around a truth that had been hidden for 2,000 years. A truth that some might kill to keep secret, while others would be willing to die for in their fight to expose it. The chase was about to begin.
That's the end of Chapter 1. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share. If you can't wait for next week, the paperback and ebook versions are available on Amazon now. The audiobook will be available at the end of May at the author's bookstore. Go to midheavens.org. See you next week.